The federal election campaign has entered the final stretch. Party leaders spent the long weekend trying to lock down votes. As advanced polls open, it's an important weekend for strategists and for undecided voters. The Liberals remain ahead in the polls, with the Conservatives in close second. Joining us from our downtown studio is former Director of Communications for Paul Martin, CTV political analyst Scott Reid. Good morning.
Good morning, Bev.
Let's talk about how important, strategically this past Thanksgiving weekend is for voters.
Well, it's critically important. I mean, anytime you have a holiday weekend shortly before an election campaign, strategists for each of the campaigns know, it's out of our hands, because the reality is that people literally turkey bone their way through the decision. They get together, what's mom think, what's dad think, what's my obnoxious brother-in-law think, how are they going to vote? And then they kind of unscientifically, imprecisely, they come to a place of rest. And so it's a really important weekend because people process information, they bounce it off their neighbors, friends, and relatives, and they reach a conclusion. And that's why all you wanted to do this whole weekend, if you were a campaign, was show big, pleasant pictures of your campaign, trying to suggest momentum as a backdrop for those conversations that were happening with families.
Yeah, and the other backdrop, of course, was the advanced polling that took place Friday through yesterday.
Big numbers, up 34%, they say, over the past election. But I just want a word of caution. We don't know what it means. And what I mean by that is it's not necessarily an indication that voter turnout overall will be up substantially. It's not even necessarily an indication of momentum for one campaign or another. Every campaign will tell you that it's good news for them. What we know, though, for certain is this. If you're running an election campaign, it helps you ID your vote. And what I mean is this. Every campaign has lists, riding by riding by riding, of the thousands of people that they've called and contacted who say, I'm going to vote for your candidate. And now they've been able to scratch more of those people off their list. That means they're able to concentrate their efforts on getting out the vote next Monday more precisely. So it at least helps people that way. But what it means beyond that, hey, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we heard some stories over the weekend. I went to an advance poll, and there was a 45-minute wait, and there was tons of us turning around and going away. But if it means that people are engaged in the process, overall, it's a good thing.
Typically what you say is when there's a change election, 9, 10, 13, 15 years into one government, you'll sometimes see a higher appetite to vote. People are motivated to say, let's get with it. But we don't know that. Of course, Conservatives are still relatively high in the polls and making a real pitch fight out of it. But it certainly means between Thanksgiving weekend, where people are talking about around the turkey, and the advance polls being high, I think it's reasonable to suggest that people are dialed into this election campaign, and that's going to make the next 6 days vital, because if you've got an interested audience, it means you can try and affect change. Change if you're going down to make you go up, change if the other guy is up to bring him down, and that's what the next 6 days is going to be all about.
And given the fact, we talk a lot about momentum, most particularly in the home stretch, and yes, the polls have indicated the Liberals are ahead, but could there be, do we see a major shift? Could that even happen in the last few days?
Well, Nick Nanos didn't poll yesterday, so we at Bell Media don't have any new polling data. I feel like a crack addict without his fix. But what we can speculate is this. The numbers have been steadily, not enormously, but steadily increasing over the course of the last number of days when Nick was in the field in favor of the Liberal Party. We also saw a widening of the gap between Justin Trudeau and Stephen Harper on the preferred Prime Minister. Again, if you're running the Liberal campaign, you got to feel good about it. But here's the real clue. If you want to know who's ahead in the polls, look at what the parties are doing. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. The NDP and the Conservatives are in ridings they hold already, campaigning to hang on to seats, and they're attacking Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is whistle-stopping through ridings that he does not have in the hopes that he can catch them. He's on the march. Yesterday in Napanee, which is a stone's throw from where I grew up, Justin Trudeau had 400 people come out to watch him step off the steps of a bus for 10 minutes. Oh. Again, it's not scientific, but that's the kind of momentum you'd like to have in the closing days of a campaign.
Well, in the closing days, here we go. Scott, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.